there's this very interesting post which claims that 4chan has people that are less bloodthirsty than the ones on Twitter. And it shows this Anon, which posted that you can conduct combat operations without pillaging and murdering innocent women and children and parading their bodies through the streets triumphantly. So this is in regards to the recent conflict, which started yesterday in Israel. And as many of you probably know, if you go on Twitter, you get to see a lot of harrowing images and war crimes being committed. It's everywhere. I don't have to show any, and I don't even think YouTube would allow me to show any. But I'm pretty sure, like, you guys know what we're talking about. And there has been a very interesting take here. I don't think that 4chan necessarily has individuals that are less bloodthirsty, because I have seen various pictures on 4chan as well, especially regarding to this current conflict. I would say that just as many as you can find on Twitter, you can find on 4chan too. But there is a difference, indeed. And I think the difference that people are trying to highlight here is hypocrisy. You see, Twitter is considered to be a prestigious place, a place where corporations and respectable journalists and authoritative sources and politicians gather, while 4chan is supposed to be this incredibly bad place of the internet where only the scum of the online space manage to find their home there. And if you actually go and you look at 4chan, you will notice that indeed there are a couple of boards, just like you have like subreddits. On 4chan you have boards. And there are a couple where, yeah, like you have more vitriolic rhetoric, and you do have people that would not be welcomed in any online civilized space, as the authoritative sources would claim. But overwhelmingly, people on 4chan are not as morally sanctimonious as you can find on other websites. At least 4chan doesn't claim to be a bastion of morality. At least they don't claim to be the authoritative fact checkers. You do not have individuals that get on a podium and try to lecture other human beings how to act and behave in public. Meanwhile, on Twitter, you do. Like, you genuinely have activists that are like, if you do not behave the exact way that I describe you to behave, you are not a decent human being, right? You're a piece of shit. And then you see the same activists when it comes to a world conflict or when it comes to some harrowing images. Instead of acting like a civilized person and say, oh my god, these images are grotesque, they either justify them, they're cheering them on, they want more of it, or they want the same to be done to the enemies and stuff like that, you know? And while, you know, you kind of understand that when something... And it's just, like, bizarre, because a normal and decent human being would not do this, right? I mean, I have seen people who were teachers or members of some student unions, or, you know, like people who support Palestine, for example, and they were cheering these pictures on, and they were like random individuals. Like, no, they were activists, like high-profile individuals, and I'm thinking that, okay, so you're telling me that if I was at the university with these people in a classroom, and those pictures were being shown, which are war crimes, by the way, these other people would be cheering and laughing and clapping? Like this is the entourage? This is what decent society now looks like, according to Twitter? Because that is terrifying. Like many people here in Romania, we support Ukraine in their conflict. And it's due to the geographical region, it's due to the fact that no Romanian wants to border Russia. But even then, like, if we were to see, like, images of war crimes, which, you know, I'm sure they may happen. I mean, in every war, you have these things. But if they were to be displayed, even amongst, like, the strongest supporters of Ukraine, we would still go like, dude, that's not okay. Like, what the fuck? That's really fucked up. Like, I hope the people that did that are punished. Like, even though you support the Ukrainian military, people that are part of it, and you see them guilty of committing war crimes, they should face a tribunal, right? Like, any civilized country does this. Now, whether or not that happens, it's a different story, but, like, from a civilian perspective, from the perspective of an individual that's looking at that, you're thinking, like, holy shit, like, we are civilized. Even though you need to conduct combat operations, as 4chan says it, you can do it without the war crimes. So, This is how like most normal people think, and I would like to surround myself with other individuals that have the same mindset. I would not like, for example, to surround myself with individuals that start clapping, cheering, encouraging. It's like, it's disturbing, it's disgusting. And not to mention, like, you're only encouraging the other side of doing it to you. Like, most people don't understand the reason for the Geneva Convention and the reason that even before that, armies would agree to a certain way that you conduct these combat operations, is specifically so that your enemy doesn't do it as well. Because if you start to like attack civilians, if you start to mistreat prisoners of war, if you start to behave in a manner that is definitely beyond the pale, and I mean, war is already devoid of humanity, but if you try to devoid it even further, then when your enemy gets the chance, they do the exact same shit. And this is like what is being tried to be prevented first and foremost. It's a pragmatic reason. If you look at World War II, one of the things that pilots never did was to shoot down a pilot that was parachuting out of an aircraft. And surprisingly, the Germans didn't do this even when they were fighting on top of London. I mean, the pilot training was very expensive back then, much more expensive than it is now. And them simply shooting the parachute of a pilot was something very easy to do. Like, it didn't require much effort. But on top of that, you deprive the enemy of a pilot. Still, because of the way they agreed to combat operations, the British wouldn't do it, and the Germans wouldn't do it either. So it was like a thing that encouraged, like, okay, we're going to treat you this way, and we expect that you treat us the same way in return. However, when they went and they fought the Russians on the Eastern Front, the Russians didn't respect this, so the Germans responded by not respecting it either. So my point is, it's not like good versus wrong. It's not like I support this side, you support this other side. If you behave demonic, the enemy, when they get the chance, they're going to behave in the same manner. So this is like the thing that most individuals and activists on Twitter don't get. And it's just like bewildering, right? It's just bizarre, especially when they claim that they are members of high society and they're well educated and they're part of the university elite, and they're cheering and they're clapping when they're looking at war crimes. Now, most people would expect this from 4chan, but they wouldn't expect it from a place that is trying to present itself with prestige like Twitter. And I do think that, at least on 4chan, like, you don't have people claiming, oh, I'm an academic, I'm a PhD, I'm a respectable member of society, you need to listen to what I say because you don't get that. So, it subverts the expectations, I guess, is what people are trying to say. I don't necessarily believe that the people on 4chan are more or less bloodthirsty than the ones on Twitter, but I do think, like, the system of social media, the way it's designed, that you get clout if you're being controversial, you get bonus points if you're an activist and you say the most edgy things, like you're being more edgier than the previous activist, and it encourages this behavior where people, instead of like looking at each other and thinking like, would I like to live with this person as a neighbor, they're more like, is he saying more edgier things than the other guy? And are the edgier things that he is saying acceptable by the terms of service? Because they are, then everything goes. So, yeah, it was a very unpleasant experience. Let's put it like this. If you go on Twitter, again, like a lot of people are saying grotesque stuff. They are being called out, though. Like, I have seen even left-leaning people that were cheering for war crimes being called out by other left-leaning people. So at least you have that. But anyway, again, to me it's bizarre because at this point, like, if you're saying that what happened is good, well, you don't really have much leg to stand on if the enemy would do something. Like if videos coming, like in the future, and the situations are reversed, like, what are you going to say then? I literally saw people going, it's like, oh, well, it's war, what do you expect? And it's like, well, like, I expect that you would treat the enemy the same way you would want to be treated, right? Like, regardless if there's combat operations, they can behave in a manner that's more acceptable to... I mean, I don't know. I guess I would expect that the prisoners of war be treated with the same level of dignity that you would expect your people to be treated if they get captured. And again, we're talking about women and children. Like, they're not even combatants. So, anyway, right, this is my assessment of the situation. Let me know what you guys think, and as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.